Ooh, what a cute pattern. I've got the perfect yarn for this. I'm going to go find it right now. Hello, my friend. So good to have you here. I'm Nicole from Nicole Knits, and in case you haven't noticed, I have been AWOL for more than a couple of weeks. You didn't notice? Okay, well, it's still a true story. I could give you all kinds of excuses, but if you've been around here for a while, you already know why. Anyway, I am super happy to be back in the saddle, so to speak. Let's see if I remember how to do this, shall we? This is episode 8 of our 2025 Untangle the Stash series, in which we, together, you and I, tackle all the possible aspects of our yarn stash management. Today we are talking about cataloging yarns, in other words, keeping track of what we have. But before we dive into all the various systems and tools, there's something you might be wondering. Do you even need to write down every skein, ball, hank of yarn you possess? The answer is yes, and maybe no. Here are 5 very good reasons why you might want to, and 2 also very good reasons why you might not. But for everyone else, welcome to the fibery deep end. Here are the 5 reasons to start cataloging. Let us all know in the comments if any or all of these apply to you. Reasons to catalog your yarn. Reason number 1, you'll stop buying duplicates, especially that same teal sock yarn you swear you don't already own. I've never actually done this myself that I'm aware of, but I suppose it's possible. Reason number 2, you can plan projects with what you actually have and not what you think you have. I cannot even count how many times I thought in my head that I knew I had yarn only to get home from the yarn store and discover that I didn't. My head lied. This happens more and more frequently now. If you know, you know. Reason number 3, you'll shop smarter. With your stash info potentially on your phone, and we'll talk more about this later, you can accurately review your collection in real time while you're standing in the store. Every time I shop, I'm looking at my phone, and no concerns about your potentially lying memory. Okay, Oscar, it might not stop the buying, but it will slow it down a bit, maybe. Reason number 4, you'll rediscover hidden gems that you have that you forgot you loved. This will happen. I experience this every time I play catch up with my recent acquisitions. It may even happen when I do a demo a bit later. And reason number 5, you'll feel in control, even if it's a total illusion. No matter what else, you will feel like you've accomplished something worthwhile. Yeah, we're all impressed, Oscar. Now, despite all that, you really may not need or want to do any of that. For instance, if you are the knitter or crocheter who only buys yarn for 1 or 2 projects at a time, or if your entire stash fits in a project bag or a bread box, congratulations, you're a unicorn. You may not need a system. Just don't tell the rest of us. And number 2, Taking all of your stash out to record it might emotionally crush you. If the thought of spreading out all of your yarn and writing it all down and getting all the details in sparks existential dread, then stop. This is supposed to be helpful, not devastating. And if neither of those scenarios apply to you, let's move on to the how-tos, shall we? Okay, method number 1 is using Ravelry's stash function. This is my go-to method, and I use it exclusively. I have lots and lots of reasons for doing so, but one of the biggest ones is that the photos that you can upload, that feature is non-negotiable. I need to see the yarn that I own in order to pair it with a project. Having it listed on a spreadsheet or in a journal with no photograph doesn't work for me. I may vaguely remember exactly what that yarn looked like, but trying to carry a color accurately in your head is almost impossible. For most of us, anyway. No, you can't, Oscar. You're partially colorblind. Another reason I really love the way Ravelry has set up its database is that it auto-fills details from their yarn database, which saves me tons of time in data entry. I'll demo how that works in a minute. It's also accessible from your phone, which is perfect when you're yarn shopping, as I noted earlier. I have over 338 stash entries and hundreds more individual units of yarn and counting. And I review my Rav stash every time I shop. There are also lots of other features on your stash page in Ravelry. You can add notes, what it cost, your purchase dates, where you bought it, the location where you're storing it in your house. You can also link that stash to a project you've entered in your queue so that you can see that you plan to use it for something when you pop in to take a look at it. It's just super, super helpful in so many ways. I'm not hiding anything, Oscar. I don't think. Now, if Ravelry isn't your thing, and I know it's not for everyone for a variety of reasons, you have options. Which brings us to method number 2, Excel, Google, or Numbers spreadsheets. If you're proficient with Office and administrative type software, you can set up your own database in Excel or any other spreadsheet type program. I'll talk about Excel for now because it's the app that's in my personal wheelhouse. This method is great for spreadsheet fans. You can add all the same fields that Ravelry has, like the colorway, the project pairing, the amount, the purchase info, etc. You just have to do it all manually. You can also color code your entries and add filters to the columns. It won't be as sophisticated as Ravelry's database, but it's definitely a step above another method I'll talk about. And yes, you can even insert photos into Excel cells. You'll need to make your rows tall enough to see the photo clearly, but it's totally doable. And finally, if all this computer stuff gives you hives, you absolutely can go full old school with method number 3, which is stash journals. I did a quick Google search and it spit out dozens of notebooks, printable pages, bullet journals, everything you can imagine. Amazon and Etsy alone are chock-a-block full of these journals. Sometimes hard copies that you can purchase, or even just pages that you can print off as many as you like and stick in a binder. And yes, many of them are very pretty and aesthetically appealing, but they are limited. There's no way to search, no filters, no backups, no photos. Unless you want to use something like my adorable little Kodak photo printer, which is super cute, but a bit fiddly to use with the app and kind of slow. But I will admit that it's kind of fun because it spits out a little photograph like those really old school cameras. What were those cameras called? You know the ones I mean. Polaroids. That's what they were called. Polaroids. Remember, you just clicked and the photo would spit out the bottom? That's exactly what this is like. It spits out a cute little photo for you. And what's really cool about it is it's got a peelable backing. So you can peel that off, and you've got a sticker. So your photo becomes a sticker that you can stick in a journal or a book or whatever. So super fun. Not the cheapest or most practical way to deal with your stash, especially when you have hundreds of these to track. Now, if your stash is small, having a journal might work, but for me, I know I would abandon it after the first 3 entries, and there's no way I would keep it up to date. Something like that is really best for visual, tactile people with bottomless resources of time and a level of discipline I do not possess. And then, of course, there's an app for that. Another quick Google search brought up a whole whack of Yarn Stash apps, including Yarn Buddy, Yarnventory, Yarn Hoarder, and a whole whack more. I've never used any of them, so I can't recommend anything in particular. But if you have used one you really like, please let us know down in the comments for those who are interested in finding a good one. I doubt it, Oscar. At least not for dogs. So like I said, Ravelry is my go-to. It's visual, searchable, and doesn't require Excel formulas or handwriting. I've demoed the stash function in one of my Ravelry tutorial videos last year, but here's a refresher. I've got this stack of new yarn that came into my possession during my trip to Europe and my SPJ Rhine River knit retreat, which is why I've been away. So many presents appeared on my bed every day. So let's use these and I'll show you how the Ravelry database works. All right, we've just popped in here to my stash section of my Ravelry notebook, and we're going to start adding some new entries to my stash. First thing we're going to do is we're going to click on the Add to Stash button, and it will pop up this page where we're going to enter the first bits of information. First question is, where was this yarn originally purchased? And this is where normally I would click local yarn store or online store, and I would enter the name of the shop where I purchased the yarn. But in this particular case, I didn't purchase most of this yarn. It was either given to me on the cruise or some of it I purchased on the cruise. So for now, I'm just putting in store, not sure what type, just because I want both those fields, name of stashed yarn and yarn company brand name, to show up for the next part. So let's start with a familiar yarn. These are 2 skeins of spin cycle yarn that I have. Let's enter those. So the name of this yarn is not Spin Cycle. Spin Cycle's the company. It's Dyed in the Wool. Dyed in the Wool. And the yarn company is Spin Cycle. And as soon as you start typing, you'll see that it pops up some suggestions. And Spin Cycle Yarns is the correct one. And then we will continue. And it's going to show me a suggestion from the Ravelry database so that I can say, yes, that's the right one, or no, it isn't. Dyed in the Wool from Spin Cycle Yarns. 30 1,000 projects. This is a very popular yarn. And I'm going to say yes and choose that yarn. Now it comes up with a whole profile page for my stash entry for that spin cycle yarn. The yarn automatically populates here. The yards per skein and the weight also automatically populate, and all of the other information like the weight of the yarn, the fiber content, all kinds of fun stuff automatically populates. I can also see here that I already have some spin cycle in my stash. I have this robin's egg colorway. First thing I'm going to do is add the colorway, and this colorway is called Playful Pop, and it's a Grocery Girls exclusive. So it's possible that it's not in here yet, and I may have to add it manually, but let's take a look and see if anybody's put it in. Payback, pick your poison. Nope, I'm going to say it's not there. So I'm just going to type it in, Playful Pop. If I want, I can put the closest color in here. It's kind of gray and pink, so I'll just say multi. And I'm going to tell it I have 2 skeins. In other words, I have 100 grams or 400 yards. I'm not going to fill in this information about where I purchased it or when or what I paid because it was a gift. Although I can put in here that I received it in August 2025. I don't know the exact day. At least that gives me an idea of how long it's been in my stash when I go in to look at this later. I can enter a dye lot if there is one. Hand-dyed yarns often don't have dye lots, and these definitely don't, so I won't bother with that. I can put some tags in if I want, and when you click on tags, Ravelry will always give you some suggested tags. So this is in fact a superwash yarn, so I could tag it as superwash, I could tag it as wool, I could tag it as sport, I could tag it as spin cycle, and this is just easier for me later for searching and also for others who might be looking for this yarn, so we'll just enter those tags. I can type in this box where it's stored. No. I don't have yarn in a basement closet. That popped up automatically because when I did an earlier Ravelry tutorial, I used basement closet as an example. I don't know where I'm going to put this yet, so I'm just going to leave that blank for the moment. You can also tell Ravelry if it's hand spun. And then there are notes. So I can type in here, this was a gift from the Grocery Girls on the Rhine River Knit Retreat Cruise. That'll just be a reminder to me of where I got it. And then I can tell it how I want it to show up in my stash. So it will be in stash. Other options are all used up. Obviously, it's not all used up. I still have it right here. I can say that I'm willing to trade or sell it, which I'm not. And I can also later in the stash tell it when I've traded, sold, or gifted my yarn. So it takes it out of my active stash and just keeps it kind of archived so I can remember that I had it. I can share this stash acquisition with a group if I want to. I don't think I've ever done that, but maybe you have a group that's specific to certain kinds of yarn and you actually do want to share your stash with them. I can give the yarn a rating. Well, I haven't used it yet, so I'm not going to rate it at this point, but that option is there. And now I'm going to add a photo. So I'm just going to click on Add Photos. I'm going to choose a file from my computer. So I've selected the file from my computer and I'm going to upload it. Here it comes. And then I'll say finished. That's the only one I've got. So I'm going to say finished with photos over here. It might look a little funky when you first enter it. Don't stress over that. It will straighten itself out in a bit. And if I don't have anything else, I don't want to add another colorway. I do want to add a different yarn. So I can either at this point click Save Stash or add a new yarn. And that just brings us back to the add a yarn page. So we're done with this one. I'm going to put it over there. I'll go to my next one. Same deal. These were yarns I got from Cabin Boy Knits on the cruise. So I'm just going to say store, not sure which type. And this yarn is, I'm just going to call it DK for now. This is very old school, handwritten labels. I'm just going to say DK. And Cabin Boy Knits, they're right there. So we'll select that and continue. Shetland Wool DK. Well, that's not what this is. This is a BFL Gotland. So Ravelry doesn't have this yarn. I can continue without linking this to Ravelry's database. So we're just going to come in here and enter everything in here manually. This yarn was hand dyed with a bunch of cool things, 4 different varietals of plants to make all the beautiful colors that are in here. So in the colorway, I am going to type in cochineal, indigo, madden, and marigold. And the weight, as I said, was DK, so I can select that. There is 230 meters, 100 grams, and I have 2 of them. And again, I'll put in that I got them in August. I don't know the date because I don't remember which day they were given to me. And I'm not going to fill in any of this, but what I am going to write in the notes, because this yarn isn't linked to Ravelry, is the fiber content. So it is 75% BFL, which is blue-faced Leicester, and 25% Gotland. And this was a gift from the Cabin Boys on the Rhine River Knit Retreat cruise. Okay, almost done in Stash, not doing any of this. We're going to add a photo. Again, I'm going to go choose the file and upload it. Finished with photos. Again, it comes in a little wonky. Don't worry about it. It will correct itself. And we're done. We'll add a new yarn. Here's another pair of yarns that were a gift from the cruise. These are from Rosehaven Yarn Shop. Bad Girl yarns. So cute. So on this one, I know what yarn store it's from. So I can say local yarn store. It's not really my local yarn store, but it is a local yarn store. So we can go through the whole process with these. And the name of this yarn is County Vacay Sock. County Vacay Sock. And it's Bad Girl Yarns. There they are. And the store name is Rosehaven Yarn Shop in Canada. Continue. Is this the yarn shop in Picton, Ontario? Yes, it is. So we'll select that and use the search box to find this. Nothing found. Okay, they can't find it. So this particular one also isn't in Ravelry's database, so we're just going to continue without it. This colorway is called Cruising Down the Rhine. See, some of these are special yarns that we received on the cruise, which, by the way, I highly recommend, if you're able to, do one of SPJ retreat cruises or other trips. They're amazing. And the weight is, it's sock weight, so I'm going to say it is fingering. There are 400 meters, 100 grams, and I have 2. And I got this again sometime in August. I don't know the day. And down here again, because we don't have the info from Ravelry's database, 85% superwash merino and 15% nylon. And this was a gift from Rosehaven Yarn Shop on the Rhine River Knit Retreat. And we want to add a photo. I'm going to go choose a file and we'll upload it. There it is, finished with photos. And we're done with that one. And we can add a new yarn. Okay, this one, I bought this from the yarn dyer on the ship, so we can actually fill in a bit more information on this one. All right, I'm going to say store, not sure which type for this one. The name of the stashed yarn is Rami Silk, and the yarn company is Maminoki. There it is, Rami Silk. It's going to be this one. The colorway I have is Sage. There's Sage. I have 3 skeins. I purchased it on August 8th, I can see from my records. And I paid a total of $138.25 Canadian dollars. I'm just going to make a note. Purchased from the dyer on the Rhine River Retreat. All right, the other information about the yarn is already in here. 60% wool, 20% silk, 20% Rami. That's exactly what it says here on the label. In stash, everything else filled in. We'll go to photos, upload that photo, finished, and add a new yarn. Now, these next 2 that I have are both from Skein Sisters in Australia, which is very cool. And I'm going to be able to show you another cool feature of the stash thing because it's the same yarn, but 2 different colorways. So we'll be able to add one and then add another colorway so you can see how everything happens automatically when you do that. I'm going to call this an online store just because if I had purchased from the Skein Sisters, I probably would have done it online. And the name of the yarn is Fabulous Sock, and it is Skein Sisters yarn. Pops up right there. And the store name is Skein Sisters. And we will continue. There is Fabulous Sock from the Skein Sisters. Choose this yarn. Now the colorway of this one, okay, you know what? They're actually both called the same thing. Rhine Reverie limited editions. But I'm going to make up a color to add to that. So let's call it Rhine Reverie. What should we call this color? Brick? Dark brick? Dark brick. I have one of those purchased sometime in August. Now the info for the yarn is here. So it is 80% Australian extra fine merino and 20% nylon. And it is fingering weight. That is all correct. This was a gift from Skein Sisters on the Rhine River Retreat. And then we're going to add a photo, choose a file, upload it. And now I'm not showing you how to choose a file because I really don't want you to be looking in my personal file system. There might be things in there that you just don't need to see. Finished with photos. And now down here, instead of doing anything else, we're going to click Add a Colorway. And then what's going to happen is it's automatically going to fill in all the same information for the second colorway. So the name of the sock is there, the name of the company is there, the store name is there. I just need to click Continue. And all I need to do here is add the new colorway. So we'll do Rhine Reveries. What should we call this one? Blue-green mix? Sure, why not? It's not very creative, but blue-green mix. I have one skein of that. Purchase date, sometime in August. And again, this was a gift from Skein Sisters on the Rhine River retreat. And we will add a photo, upload it, and finished. And now, no more to add, no new colorways. We're all done. So we're just going to click Save Stash. And then we'll go back to the stash page. And there are all the entries we just put in today. You can see the total yards I have of each of those and all their pretty colors. Now, yes, I have fancy photos of my yarn only because I snap a picture of them with my phone. You can see I always snap them on an angle because I know they're going to end up in a square shaped frame. And on the diagonal is the way I can get the most of the yarn, taking up the whole frame. And then I run it through a program I have that takes away the background and just leaves the white. It's just a bit less distracting and looks a bit more professional. But don't get hung up on that. Just take photos however you want to take them with your phone. Just snap one. You can upload it directly from your phone. You don't have to do anything fancy on your computer. And there we are. Now I can sort and filter my stash by weight, by date added, by fiber type, by the amount that I have, most yardage first. I can switch it up all kinds of ways. The Ravelry stash function is infinitely helpful and useful. If you're a Ravelry user, I highly recommend that you take the time to do this at least a couple of times. See how much you love it. Maybe it's too futzy for you. That's possible. I won't judge you. I know some people aren't into this, but I absolutely love the usability of this app. And I love being able to look up the yarn that I have without having to dig through every box, bin, bag, project bag that I've got to find what I'm looking for. All good? See you back at the desk. And finally, just a few extra tips. Don't aim for perfection. I have lots of skeins around here that are not in my Rav stash yet. If you are starting from scratch, pick one bin, bag, or container and tackle just that one and see how it goes. Or even just enter your most recent purchases. I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments with your stash tracking method or lack thereof. And if you have fun today or learned something, please boop that like button. Send this video to a friend, yada, yada, yada. Any interaction you do on top of watching today lets YouTube know that others might want to see this video too. Here's a link to my other Ravelry tutorials in case you're interested in getting more out of Ravelry. I say goodbye, Oscar says goodbye, and we both promise to see you again very soon. Bye!